Hi, I'm the wine, one half of Wine and Rum. On this YouTube channel, we talk about our expat lives in Dublin. The rum is from Barbados, and I'm from Austria. And today I'm gonna talk about one question that we get asked a lot by prospective expats, you guys. So if you like that kind of stuff, make sure to subscribe, and let's get started with the video. So one question that we, or especially I as a non-English native speaker, get is, how much English do you really need to know in order to move to Ireland? Or really any other language speaking country than your own? First of all, let's get this out of the way. Austrians speak German. I know it's confusing, we don't speak Austrian. Unless you maybe ask Germans and they call our German weird and they'd be like, that's Austrian. We don't speak French either, that's Swiss people that also speak French. We just speak German. We do learn English in school, like nowadays. I think people even learn it from like kindergarten. I mostly learned it from like middle school, and I did do my bachelor's degree in English, so I knew English. I had lived in London, so you'd think moving to Ireland was like, oh, whatever. But I admit, I was a bit nervous. I was a little bit scared, to be quite honest. Like, what if people don't understand me, or if I make obvious mistakes and people will laugh at me, like the usual maybe fears that you have before moving to a country. Did it really happen? No. But one surprising thing that did happen is that the rum, who's from Barbados, which aside, yes, the native speaker's language is English, not Spanish. Some people get confused about that. So he's an English native speaker. And even he sometimes struggled to understand people here for the first few weeks or months that we were here. And that's completely normal. When you move to a new country, there's always going to be an adjustment period where you have to get used to the local lingo, certain phrases that people use, or just the social cues with how small talk works. And it's an adjustment period no matter how much English you know or how much of a native speaker you are. It's just about practice, getting out there and getting to know the local culture. So perhaps the biggest question that most of you ask is, how much English do I need to know in order to be able to work in Ireland? So usually there aren't any clear-cut requirements like, oh, you need to get so many points on this test or you need that kind of certificate. It's a lot more nuanced, and it comes very much down to what type of job you have to do. If it's a job that's restricted to a certain amount of conversations, like for example if you work in a restaurant, usually talk about the food, what's in the food, maybe a bit of small talk, maybe if they're tourists they'd ask you what kind of cool things there are to see in the area. So that's a certain types of conversations that you can be really good at, but at the same time you wouldn't be able to explain to a plumber why the toilet is not working or something like that. So you can be good at one section of the English language, one type of conversation, and you can be fine with that. And then there's also other jobs where you need a very broad spectrum of knowledge of the English language. And in particular, there are also jobs where you need to be able to understand the nuances. Like if you're a doctor, you have to know the language really well to understand a patient struggling to explain symptoms to you. Or if you're working in business and you're trying to negotiate a contract, it's really important to also know like the little cultural differences, and to know how one word could be interpreted versus another, and what could the other person you're trying to negotiate with mean by using those words specifically. Generally, if you're trying to understand how much English you need to know, I'd say there are two big differences. There are jobs that work directly, client-facing, so anything from shop assistant, doctor. If you work with clients in a marketing agency and you have to understand the briefing, things like that, you usually need better English skills than if you do something on the back end, where you usually would only talk to colleagues. Maybe it's something where there are certain processes that are the same like everywhere in the world, so if you work as a lab technician, the science doesn't change just because it's in a different language, and often certain terms may be in English already anyway, or they may be in Latin. I don't know what scientists do all day. So with those kind of things, it might be a lot easier to not know that much English. There's also another case where you may need so much English actually, and that is the fact that there's a lot of international companies' headquarters here. So they often have sales, customer support, all kind of those jobs positions for the entirety of Europe and also Africa. So if you speak, like, keep it simple, let's say German like I do, You could find probably jobs where they don't care that much as long as you know basic English, because really what they need you for is to speak German to German customers most of the day, and then maybe you do your documentation, the internal communication of the company is in English, but if you make grammar mistakes there, they don't care because it's all internal communication. Another question that we sometimes get is, how will the employers actually know how good my English is? Like, if they're not asking for a certificate, how will they know, or what will they check for? So usually, from my experience, I haven't seen anyone ask for formal certifications or training requirements, things like that. Usually you see, to be honest, from a CV or cover letter, you can usually quite easily tell the level of English a person has. Obviously you could pay someone online to fix up the cover letter and the CV, just to check for grammar mistakes and to make it flow a bit more, to sound like a native speaker. But usually the moment you have a phone interview, which is often the first step for the interview process here, then you would know how well someone speaks English, and usually the people hiring would then know, okay, that's fine enough for us, it's not perfect, but it's fine for the purposes that we would need it within the company. Or they know that maybe the level isn't fully there to make sure that you'd be able to communicate well with clients. So if you're still asking yourself, but Julia, tell me, how do I really know that I'm ready to go to move country? How do I really know that I know enough English? I have to tell you, to be honest, you don't. Like, it's never going to be enough, because there'll always be an adjustment period. Even if you're a native speaker, when you move country, you have to get used to the local lingo. It's just a part of what happens. And the biggest point that's really going to make a difference is not how much do you know English, what are your skills, is are you able to get yourself to go out there, to try to have conversations, to try speak yourself, and just acknowledge that you are going to make mistakes, there are going to be little misunderstandings. It just happens in an international workplace. It's not going to stop happening just because you improve English. There'll also be other people who don't maybe fully speak English, or there's just cultural things where there can be a misunderstanding. It's just part of life, and you just gotta accept that there will be mistakes, and it's okay. The important thing is you go out there, you try to speak English, you try to understand it. People usually are very understanding. It's a very tourist-friendly country here, especially Dublin. They're used to a lot of tourists, so no one expects you to get everything right on the first try, and people usually are quite patient if they see that you are trying very hard to speak. So sometimes you just gotta trust in yourself, take the leap of faith, and know that with time and with practice you'll improve your language skills a lot. So with time, and it's been 3 years now for us, you eventually might even take on some Irish language habits, like constantly saying "grand" and "what's the story?" But we'll leave those for another video. So if you like this video, please do give it a like, share it with people who you think will also find it helpful, and make sure to subscribe, because we'll do more videos like this. So let us know in the comments, what are languages that you speak, or what's a language that you would like to learn. I hope to see you next time when the room is back. Bye!